So you are all talking about that only those companies who would pivot and adapt will survive. What about media? Media was not, I mean, it was already under big pressure for a while now, yeah? At least traditional media. Figures better than me that the number of media outlets have declined significantly, that the number of kind of staff journalists have declined significantly. That's why you are now, the ones who left are the best, and the ones now you are being attacked by the whole industry. And it was not like this like 10 years ago, right? So what will this pandemic change media? And is this, is it a positive influence or negative influence? And if it's a positive influence, how? And if you're going to change, how? Would you, Stewart or Lydia? Lydia, would you like to?
I just wanted to just say quickly, I'm certainly, as Mike said, you can draw some parallels to the recession. I know that American media in 2008, there was the great shedding, and a lot of longtime institutional publications had to let go all of their staff and close their doors. But that was a time when, if you were a freelancer, it was a time of great opportunity. And those media properties that were still left standing needed content, and they needed to draw from a different pool of talent. And so in that regard, they started using freelancers much more than they ever had traditionally. It was less expensive for them, and it allowed freelance journalists to still do what they always did, which is report the news. But they could do it a little bit more flexibly, in the best case scenario. So I think that although we can't draw a line between these two dots, I think that this is a very different climate. Those that are shuttering may never come back in any sort of different form. Those that are downsizing may not ever upsize again, because they'll be able to work more lean. To Stewart's point about, if you do something for 66 days and find out it's great, then why would you go back? So I think that there is a danger in that. I keep seeing stories about how different brands won't have their advertisements put next to coronavirus coverage. Not really sure why, because I know that coverage is getting a lot of attention. Certainly, a lot of media companies are talking about how much more their audience has grown even in the last 3 weeks. So I don't quite know what the answer is, but I do feel like whatever is going to happen to shrink this industry is going to be something that we may not bounce back from.
I see.
I can speak to a little bit of that subject. I think that in the certainly last recession, the media that won out was the trusted media. So it was, I think it comes down to a couple of things: trust, quality, traffic, and brands. So trusted journalism, quality journalism, the fact that they're getting traffic, and I think Lydia hit the nail on the head there, in the sense that certainly from our perspective at TechCrunch, a lot of our traffic is really about how coronavirus is affecting the technology industry, and brands are going to advertise against that, and brands will gravitate towards quality and towards trust. So if you can, certainly in this sort of disinformation world that we live in often, where there are a lot of outlets who, disreputable news outlets, which are not really effectively disinformation operations, not trusted journalists at all, but look like journalists. They are, really, hopefully, people are gravitating away from those towards, trusted brands, trusted journalism, and that's the. I think that's the kind of thing that hopefully we can see happening, and secondly, hopefully, will happen because people really need to know real information about what is going on behind the scenes, especially with the current situation with the current crisis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the nice things about tech media is we're not the mainstream media. The mainstream media is, famously political, and it's rare to find tech media that has massive political swings. Some do, but not anywhere near as bad as in the mainstream media. And so you do get automatically slightly more trusted than you would do as mainstream media. Unfortunately, there's a lot of mistrust in the mainstream media, and with some people it bleeds through, and they would suggest that every journalist is untrustable, but that's clearly not the case. And in the tech media, we're kind of isolated from all of that. We're literally just trying to get to the bottom of the story and pull all sides of the story. And most of our stories are to do with things like how this is going to affect that. In this case, it's COVID-19, or product launches, or funding announcements, or reports and studies and data analysis. So there's not a lot that we gain from swinging it politically one way or the other. We get to just do our job and actually report things from a completely trustworthy standpoint. Personally, what I've seen at Grit Daily, and what I've been told by some of my colleagues in the industry, is that traffic numbers have gone up quite significantly since COVID-19, because people are clamoring for information. They want to know how it's affecting the tech industry, the investments, etc., etc. So traffic has gone up everywhere, from both for both Grit Daily and at least 3 other publications I've spoken to. And yeah, I think the thing that a lot of tech news publications have done in the past to augment their revenues, such as build an events business, obviously that physical events have gone away, but people are pivoting very fast towards online events to pick that up. You will see a drop in sponsorship money typically for that, because sponsors aren't necessarily as keen to have a virtual booth or just have a logo on all of the online materials versus actually being at an event and meeting people and convincing them to buy their softwares. But I think there are lots of other different revenue streams that are possible and available to those that have had to drop the events business. It's just a case, as with the industry at large, of being maybe a little bit flexible, but also smart with how you pivot. And there's lots of ways, lots of additional revenue streams, which I think the tech media industry is going to introduce right across the board to pick up the slack.
So do you expect the emergence of new formats then? Like, for example, if people would develop a habit of consuming a lot of videos, then maybe the video would become a kind of key format for where text was before, and there might be some sponsorship opportunities around that. I'm trying to move towards the potential strategies for collaboration with the media for business, because, from the business perspective, it is, when business thinks about where to invest this money for marketing, which channel would generate more leads, working with media has become increasingly expensive compared to...
Well, I think what you're talking about there is advertising, and I'm afraid I'm not an advertising expert, but I mean, if I could just remind everyone what I said earlier, is that the trusted brands are what will win out. And if marketers want to partner with trusted brands, then they'll be able to find them in this environment, because weak media brands won't be able to survive. We are looking at a nuclear winter scenario. If you don't have the traffic, if you don't do the real journalism, right journalism, you won't attract the audience, and you won't succeed. And I think, and that's the simple. How marketers behave and how PR people behave isn't frankly for me to comment on, because that's up to them. But you know, we are looking at a similar kind of scenario. Actually, I think it's closer to .com crash of 2001, when the media brands, there were probably a dozen technology media outlets. Fast Company, in fact, was famously one which survived, but many just did not. And so we're going to see that again.
Mm-hmm.
Fast Company is 25 years old this year.
Congratulations.
To answer your earlier question, Anastasia, yeah, we're going to see people taking advantage of video more. We've already seen that. First of all, you know, people started to put videos on their sites to, in some cases, replace the written word. In other cases, just to augment it. You know, famously, Mashable went from being a very serious tech news publication to, you know, basically putting lots of cat and dog videos on their site. Equally bizarrely, BuzzFeed went from doing cat and dog videos to doing investigative journalism. It's been quite the trip. But you know, with doing video, and then what people realized is that people don't look at their videos on their laptops anymore. They look at them on their phones. They don't have the volume up. So now we've got videos with subtitles, because then you don't have to turn the volume up. You know, there'll be lots of iterations of this. And of course, every single piece of media is an opportunity for advertising and sponsorship, or some kind of monetization. There are lots of people who are putting videos on their site which are not their videos. They're just writing a story around the video, but they put it through their own player, so they pick up the monetization, which is a bit sketchy, but that's what some people are doing. We're going to see all sorts of formats. On Grit Daily, we have a button, so that if you can't read the text, you can click it and it will read it out for you. You know, lots of people are playing around with lots of different media solutions right now. First of all, to make it easier for the consumer, make it easier for them to take in the information. And then second of all, because every single new media opportunity is a sponsorship opportunity.
Okay, I see.